Hi everybody, Kat here. Welcome to the channel. Hope you're having a great day. It is Friday morning. Keep your friends close. Keep your enemies closer. This seems to be the strategy that the Palace is using right now. And I think it's going to backfire. But we'll get into that. Has it ever worked before? Yes, it has. This is not the first time the Palace has used this strategy. In fact, Queen Elizabeth, who was not keen on confrontation, did not want things to get out. It wasn't just privacy with the Queen, it was secrecy. And we see that down through the ages with the monarchy. Now, the biggest example of this keep your enemies closer strategy used by the Palace, we'll go back to Queen Elizabeth's reign in the early 60s. Have you heard of the Profumo affair in 1963? John Profumo, who was an MP in the government, got tangled up in a love triangle, an affair with Christine Keeler, to whom he'd been introduced to by artist Stephen Ward, who was a photographer. He was an artist. He sketched and painted. Well, they were acquaintances with Prince Philip, who at the time, Stephen Ward and other associates were members of the so-called Thursday Club, which was a group of the guys, Prince Philip included, that would get together at this one club, and there was always women for hire, and it was just a real gentleman's club kind of a place, and things went on. We can only imagine. I'm sure it was way more tawdry than the official narrative goes, and just the scandal surrounding it shows it to be. So anyway, John Profumo, having this affair with Christine Keeler, also happened to have Christine Keeler was also having an affair with a Soviet spy at the same time, who was a friend to Stephen Ward. And in comes Prince Philip. Now, in the course of all the things going on, there seemed to, at one point, be threat of some pictures coming out that the Palace didn't want made public. A couple sketches of Prince Philip surfaced, done by Stephen Ward, of Prince Philip in his underpants or bathing trunks or what. But, and they were very tame, sort of just a study in his physique, kind of a sketch, nothing bad. But the thought that there could be more pictures or information, is dangerous to the Palace. Now, what was going on at the Palace at the time? We had Anthony Blunt at the time, who was the royal art curator at the Palace until 1974, I believe. Now, he was actually a Soviet spy. He was in touch with the other Soviet spy, who was in touch with Stephen Ward, who helped facilitate the Thursday Club members with their parties and things, and supplying girls and all of that stuff, and that's how you get Prince Philip tangled in all of this. Well, now come to find out, the palace finds out. The palace finds out about Anthony Blunt, that he's a Soviet spy, and he's been sitting in the palace gathering secrets for over a decade, and who knows what he's done. Her Majesty's Secret Service knows that Anthony Blunt is a Soviet spy. Now, what he must have had on them, because the Queen, he was never ousted, he was never prosecuted, he was never outed as a Soviet spy, nobody said anything, and he kept his job in the palace till he retired. The only thing that actually happened to him was in 1979, he was stripped of his knighthood. That's it. It was about that time when they actually, after his death, they did come out and say that he had died. Now, it's very interesting, because as scandalous as the Profumo affair was at the time, I believe it could have been much worse. I believe it could have been much, much worse. In later years, during this time, and while he was still working for the palace, the Queen actually employed Anthony Blunt to do a spying operation. Indeed, since he was in the middle of the swirl of this whole thing, she sent him on a mission to go retrieve documents and perhaps photographs and everything else that may have put a certain member of the palace, Prince Philip, in the midst of some very bad things, and they didn't want this information to get out posthumously after the scandal. So he was sent to retrieve these things, and I guess he did the right job, because these things never did surface after that. Just a lot of swirling accusations of Prince Philip kind of being on the edge of this scandal, but there was nothing ever to pin him right in the midst of all this tawdry mess that we can only imagine that was going on. So yeah, the Queen, enemies, a spy in the palace. She kept it quiet, and indeed even used him for her own purposes to keep a scandal away from the palace. And what have we got going on now? More and more is coming out, and especially in light of this Nigeria trip that we know was just a farce, fake royal tour. Half the people involved are criminals, or at least accused of, if they ever stepped foot in the States, they'd be arrested immediately. Terrible, terrible thing. But so, and now we know that the palace knew about the Nigeria trip. Indeed, diplomats from Nigeria spoke to the palace in coordination of the trip. So the king was well aware that they were going to be hosting Harry and Meghan, and the nature of the trip and the itinerary and what are they going to be doing. Now, here in my previous video, this is one thing I said as a caution, because you never know if the king knows and the palace planners know what Harry and Meghan are doing. The spooks know as well, meaning that His Majesty's Secret Service and all of that jazz, right? Just like the Anthony Blunt affair, there are traitors in the midst, Harry and Meghan working actively to destroy the royal family. People around them, people they're associated with, working to destroy our rights and freedoms, not only in Britain, but in the States, in the Commonwealth. I mean, the whole thing is nefarious, and here we go. We've got spies in the mix. This is we do. And Charles, subscribing to this idea of keep them closer, keep tabs on them, let them carry on and do what they're doing, right? And he's even expanding this. All of a sudden, you're seeing like Eugenie popping up at garden parties. You're seeing Fergie at events. He's trying to keep the ones that he considers troublemakers close, and so he knows what's going on as if some way he can control it. Now, he could, to a degree, but Charles is weak. Charles is not that cutthroat as I think William might be. Now, here's the thing. Charles might be doing this and thinking he's helping them, he's supporting them, and, and all of this. And in effect, maybe it'll help the monarchy because it'll bring everybody together. William is of a completely different mind. Now, keep in mind, William has his own advisors, but he also has access to all this information as well. He knows what's going on. He knows what Charles is doing, and he doesn't like it. William's got friends in high places. He doesn't need his enemies close to him. He doesn't want his enemies close to him. Not just Harry and Maggie, not just the Yorks, but the king himself is becoming an enemy to William because they don't see eye to eye. Just like I've been saying for 2 years, I think we are edging ever closer to the point in time, and the cancer, I think, is just an absolutely timely excuse for the king to step down and cede his crown to his son William. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen on the guise of the cancer, and he just can't do this and that, but it's going to happen because we've now got MPs in the government that want to see Harry and Meghan stopped. We've got a British public that want to see Harry and Meghan stopped. We've got a Commonwealth that's up in arms over the behavior of those two. We've got American senators concerned with Harry and Meghan due to their influence and interference in American governmental affairs. The whole world is turning against Harry and Meghan. The whole world knows that the king could take care of this overnight should he choose to, and he's not. So the British government, the British public, the Commonwealth, and the wider world are now all starting to see the king as a weakling. William is ready to make his move. William, as I've said from the beginning, King Charles III, does life imitate art? We are right in the swirl of the whirlwind of what's to come. I think within 6 months you'll see the king step down. And within that period of time, if Harry and Meghan aren't neutralized by the time the king steps down, they will be shortly afterwards. That's all I'm saying. I think, just in the timeline in my head about everything that's going on and the time loop with Harry and Meghan and how it's all converging, I think after September, everything's gonna change. That's all I have for you today. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you have to say. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.